What's it like to bike in Atlanta, Georgia? That is the question I'm going to do my best to answer today. And I'm going to be using a bunch of online maps like the one you see right in front of you right here to try to answer that question. With that being said, I don't live in Atlanta, Georgia. I haven't biked much in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm just going to be using the online resources that are available to you and me to do this. With that being said, if you live in Atlanta, Georgia, and are experienced cycling there, whether that's commuting around the city or road biking or mountain biking or bike touring, I would love to talk to you and just try to bring some of your expertise out through an interview on this channel, just to kind of give the audience some information that's really going to give them value, make their bike lives a little bit better. With that being said, let's dive right in. And first, I'm going to take a look at the Strava heat maps, see where most people are doing their riding at the moment. And I've never seen something so pronounced as this line right here. You can clearly see bikers are biking right here. This is like the metro main area of Atlanta. You can see like there's some, strong congregation along this lane, this road right here, which I'll take a quick look at what road that is. It's probably, so if it's here, Atlanta, this must be the, oops, probably, what road would that be? Guessing it's like a rail trail. Like this one, maybe? Not exactly sure, but that's besides the fact. The walk score is given by walkscore.com is a 90. That's very good. Bike score is 79, arguing it's very bikeable, mostly flat, excellent bike lanes. Again, numbers are just numbers, so take those with a grain of salt. As far as rail trails, you can see that really strong predominant path of riders from the Strava heat maps is this trail right here, the 33-mile Chief Ladiga Trail. Let's take a few quick looks at some of the photos here. Ooh, that's some pretty mountains there. Huh, wow. Look at that. Yeah, that's a great escape to have in the city, to be able to go out 33 miles on dedicated rail trail, and just really be on your own. That is awesome. Let's look at a few other trails. So that one though, it's not necessarily like, so it's closer to Buckhead. As far as trails in Atlanta, there's this main trail, the 20-mile Stone Mountain Trail, another great one. So you got options as far as like if you wanted to live out in Clarkston, Scottdale, Avondale Estates, Glenwood Estates, Lenox Place, Lake Claire, Little Five Points. You could definitely bike into the city on that trail and be pretty separated from automobile traffic. So that's cool to see. And then it looks like you've got some a concrete South River Trail, 9.4 miles. It's a little bit further out of town, but you definitely got some good coverage here. I'm going to take a bird's eye view of one of the bike lanes. Let's look near like the Georgia Aquarium on this road right here. So Lucky Street Northwest. So I'm going to go to Street View, click here and see what the bike lane looks like. Oh, look at that. So it is a separated bike lane. They got it kind of separated by some like nice planters, actually, concrete planters, which will definitely give you some additional road confidence. I like that. Again, that is like downtown. And that was a solid green bike path I saw. It doesn't look like the connectivity of all the bike paths here is too amazing. And there's nothing in like, as far as downtown, it like, let's go to MLK Drive right here. See what that bike lane is like. Yeah, this is car dominated. Nothing really dedicated for bike lanes. Let's look at this road right here. I'm just going to pick a few of these and look at them. This isn't a comprehensive view. This is just a painted bike lane off to the side, but you can take a deeper look at these as well, if you'd like, and especially if you're looking at specific towns in the or areas and neighborhoods within Atlanta, you're definitely going to want to take a look at these. Let's see what the if we can see the Freedom Park Trail. Yeah, it looks like you've got this trail separated from the road there. Um, that runs along Freedom Park, which would be definitely be pretty accessible. All right, as far as mountain biking, so it looks like the closest trailhead to Atlanta is probably going to be this trailhead right here. This is Southside Park, Atlanta. So Southside Park, Atlanta. See how far of a bike ride or drive it would be from downtown if you live downtown. So it's about 7 miles, which is about a 40 to 50-minute bike ride. As far as a drive, about 15 minutes. So not too far, but it's definitely not like embedded into the city like other places I've looked at. And it is a very tightly packed trail system um, that let's look at some of the photos here. Trails look pretty nice and pretty fun if you can get there. Got a few photos there. Let's look at this trail system, Hickory Loop. Looks like this is the majority of what's submitted so far. Let's find another trail system in the Atlanta area and see what's going on there. So obviously you've got this trail. This is the Silver Comet Trail. I thought this would be the same trail as the rail trail, but that might not be true. The Chief Ladiga Trail. So this one it goes through Powder Springs and Hiram. This one goes through, let's see, Silver Comet Trail. This is Pebblebrook Estates, Powder Springs, Hiram. So it looks like it might be the same trail until it must just continue on. That's the Chief Ladiga Trail there too. So maybe it's just marked weird, but it says it's 63.5 miles. That is super far. It takes you all the way to Anniston, Alabama, to like Weaver, which Anniston has some really sweet mountain biking. I've done a video on them before. Definitely check that video out. But let me see how far it is from Atlanta to Weaver, and that'll help confirm the distance. Weaver, Georgia. On Weaver, let's see. All right, how about Jacksonville, Georgia? Oh, yeah, actually, this is Weaver, Alabama. We're going across state lines. So it's 94 miles. Yeah. So this trail here that you see is definitely what it claims, 63.5 miles. And then the Chief Ladiga Trail, 34 miles. So interesting. This is the Chief Ladiga Trail that takes you to like maybe the state border. And then there's the Silver Comet Trail, which takes you 61 miles. Okay. And that makes for, 94 miles of straight trail. That is pretty sweet. There's going to open up a lot of like bike touring and bike packing options from Atlanta because of that. You could really make a nice weekend out of that and do some really long rides completely separate. It'd be sweet if it was like a loop. Maybe they can work on that, but we'll see. So that is pretty promising. As far as other mountain biking near the city, we've got, that's like a 0.7 mile trail. There's nothing like huge. There's this 8.8 miles Soapbay Creek. That's definitely further than this trail system we looked at earlier. And you got some dispersed systems. This is a 20-mile gravel loop. So this trail system here looks interesting. Let's see how far that is from Atlanta. This is Allatoona Creek. And there's definitely going to be some good riding here. Just by the looks of the trail system, the amount Definitely recommend taking a deeper look into this. From Atlanta, you're looking at 30 miles, 45-minute drive, and definitely a few hour bike ride. So it makes it Atlanta, as far as biking to the mountain bike trails, gonna be a little bit tough. Um, but what I do like is that you do have that 90-mile rail trail right near the city. That is pretty sweet. As far as gravel maps, Atlanta has kind of some dispersions, some gravel roads. All these are user submitted, so always adding to them. Looks like there's kind of almost a gravel loop you can kind of make here. This is a 3.8-mile trail. Interesting. And yeah. So nothing too like embedded or nothing too crazy in Atlanta. Um, but definitely some action. Stone Mountain Park, by the way, I don't know if you've ever seen Stone Mountain, but check this out. This is like it's it's a really interesting monolith of a rock. So it's just I don't know how it just was the geology of it, but it's just there. It's just like I'm gonna have to do some more research into what makes it pop up like that, but it almost looks like a pimple on Earth or something like that. Um, Pretty interesting. All right, bike packing in near Atlanta. You've got the Trans North Georgia, which is a pretty famous bike packing trail, 350-mile route. Um, so that's gonna, and then there's the Bull and Jake bike packing trail, 64 miles. That starts in Lumpkin. I'm gonna see how far it is to get to the national forest here, the Chattahoochee from Atlanta, and that's Chattahoochee National Forest is gonna have a ton of dispersed camping because it's a national forest. Gosh, that is a hard one to spell, which means you're gonna have so it's about 86 miles, hour 14-minute drive, okay, or a 8-hour bike ride, a day or two. Um, as far as south, let's look at what the Trans North Georgia Trail looks like. Some of the photos from it. So, by the way, let's give some credit to Logan Watts, pedaling nowhere. Is the tagline. Some mountains in the background. Georgia is the end of the Appalachian Trail, by the way, in North Georgia. It ends up in Maine at Mount Katahdin in the north part. I hear they're working on like extending the Appalachian Trail to go up towards into Canada, which only I think makes sense to extend it. I think the traditional trail will always kind of be Maine to Georgia. But as far as biking on the AT trail, the AT trail has some chunky, rocky, steep parts. So biking the AT trail is not, and I'm not talking about this is not the AT trail. This is the Trans North Georgia bike packing route. But it's going to have some similarities to the other parts of northern Georgia, of course, because that's where it is. Quiet sickness. What does that mean? We could all use some peace and quiet. I think that's one of the reasons why I love backpacking so much. Yeah, so it's pretty beautiful. I think when you think of Georgia, you might not think of mountains, but it certainly has some elevation and some beautiful views to offer. I love looking at maps like this and just the surprises you get along the way. You can kind of see some of that elevation here. Pisgah National Forest near Asheville. I mean, some of the best mountain biking on the East Coast. This mountain range here really kind of extends down into Georgia, and that's what you're seeing in a lot of those pictures that we were just looking at. So as far as bike touring routes from adventure cycling, you're kind of surrounded by the Transamerica Trail, the Great River South Trail, the Southern Tier Route, and the Atlantic Coast Trail, but nothing that goes directly through Atlanta. With that being said, you could take that 90-mile rail trail west to Anniston, or really Weaver, and then you're closer to get to the Underground Railroad. But it's likely that if you're doing any of the established bike touring or bike packing routes, you're going to drive. Of course, there's going to be a ton of options if you want to do DIY and create your own routes. But as far as what's established, this is what we're looking at the moment. As far as bike shops, looks like we've got a good number. There's probably like 10 or 12 bike shops here that look like dedicated bike shops. Starter Bikes, In Town Bikes, Atlanta Bicycle Barn. That one seems interesting. That's pretty cool. Oh yeah, look at that. That's very cool. Funky. Let's give some love to one more shop. Sopo Bicycle Cooperative. Yeah, I like this place. Looks like they probably allow you to use tools. And they probably do some trainings there, it looks like. Super sweet. I love that. All right, as far as the weather in Atlanta, a 7.6 overall. Most comfortable month is May. October, super nice. July and August are going to be a little hot. January, December, a little bit cooler. So you're going to have, definitely a balance of hot and cold. And then some months with just really temperate weather. You're definitely going to have year-round riding there, for sure. As far as snow, it averages 1 inch of snow per year, 52 inches of rain per year, more than average. So definitely fairly moist and rainy. High temperature in July, 88. High temperature in December, 54. That's pretty nice. And low temperature in July, 69, low temperature in January, 32. So yeah, definitely not too cold and not too hot, although you're going to experience both those, not extremes, I'd say, but you're definitely going to have some variance. So that is kind of a look into Atlanta. I think the most interesting thing they've probably got going on at the moment is the 90-mile bike route that goes from Atlanta to Weaver, Alabama. That's super cool. I've gone a little bit over time in this video. Not sure if YouTube's going to let me upload it, but just want to say thanks for watching. Like I said, if you live in Atlanta and have a lot of biking experience there, would love to potentially speak to you. In which case, just go down in the description below and fill out the survey I've got there. We might be able to set an interview up. And until next time, thanks for watching. Have a good one.